All right.
Are you good to go? It's been so long. It's been so long because I've had a real episode. Oh, man. Welcome back to Colors or Crutch. My name is Max Sternberg, also known as Wounded Satellite, and I'm joined today by the Dark Goat, the Shurikai, the Valiant Toast, good friend of mine, FreedomWaffle. How you doing today, bro?
Thanks for having me. Happy to be here.
Yeah, it's a good place to be, man. It's a good place to be. Telluride, Colorado. Strongly recommend whenever you get the chance. But the meta has changed. The CDH world is breathed anew. It's been a weird few weeks. It's been a weird couple of months, in overall honesty. But things are changing. We had those bans. I believe it was September 23rd. We lost Dockside. We lost Mana Crypt. We lost Jewel Lotus. We lost Nadu. A little bit separate than the rest of the three. That changed the meta a little bit. And very recently, this past weekend, well, I don't know when this is going to release, but the weekend before we recorded this, we were down in Texas at Battle of the Brazos. Is that what it was called? Battle of the Brazos, however it was pronounced. But it was a really fun tournament, and definitely a new meta there. You chose Shurikai.
Yeah.
What led you to choose Shurikai for that event?
Well, so right as the bans came out, I looked at the meta and I figured that Rogsai would just be the best deck. So put down TNK, picked up Rogsai, but also it was like, this is a time to explore. There's tons of new cards that we can actually make work because it's slower now. The meta is not so fast, right? Without 3 pieces of insane fast mana, you could do some more interesting strategies. So I played a lot of Shurikai and some other things. Shurikai just kept winning. So, I would expect that Jewel Lotus and Mana Crypt would make the deck a lot worse, but because there's no Dockside, I was on 6 clones prior to the bans. I did play the deck prior to the bans, and so I got to cut a bunch of clones. Now I'm on 2, and because there's no Dockside, you don't really care. Well, there's nothing to feed, right? You could just dump all your artifacts out right away, and the deck is, even the commander is an artifact, right? It's an artifact deck. Yeah. We played Mishra's Workshop, so you don't get punished.
Do you have a real one?
No, I don't.
Okay.
But Pigeon will let me borrow it.
That's true.
But yeah, so I think the deck is definitely well positioned now. You're able to run a ton of interaction to slow down the Rogside decks, and you have a lot of creature hate for these creature decks that are popping up. So I definitely think it's been well positioned. It didn't do as well in the tournament as I'd like, but we'll talk about that.
We'll get to there a little bit. Shurikai, I think, following the strain of everything I've kind of learned, the more controlling strategies, which Shurikai definitely falls into a proactive, your version at least is more of a proactive combo control deck is how I would categorize it. It's not one of the heavy stacks versions that's on the humility effects and all these things that are going all out stacks, but it's a control deck. And very similar vein of thought to when I was looking at Talion post bans. I was like, man, losing Mana Crypt, losing Jewel Lotus, like that makes the early Talions, the early Shurikais so difficult. But because we are playing these slower control strategies that want the game to go longer and often are frustrated by the losses of just an explosive win through Dockside, making everything slower, even though it hurts our initial setup for our control plan, slowing everything down is still very beneficial to those decks and them getting to that point in the game that they can start to take over. And yours, very similar to Italian, is like card advantage, dot deck.
Well, and I think one difference, though, I will say about this deck than decks like Nimrus, which was around for a while, it doesn't play like a control deck. It has as much interaction as possible fitting in there, but it's not trying to take someone out of the game necessarily, though it can happen, right? You run all the interaction, all the board wipes, so that can happen. But what the deck is trying to do is let you do your game plan and then feed off of it, right? We're on obviously Mystic are the best things in the format. Well, for those, Esper Sentinel, but then we're on, Mockingbird to copy Esper Sentinels, copy Artifact, I can copy One Ring Esper Sentinels. Yep. Then we're on copy Enchantment, Mirror Maid, right? So like, we want people to cast spells. We don't want to necessarily stop them from playing the game. We just want to be able to stop the win attempt. So it is playing similar to like a deck like TNK, where we're not trying to stop everything. We're just trying to stop wins and then gain advantage because of it.
Yeah, which I think that is the modern control deck within CDH. I
don't think it's a control deck. I don't think it's the right way to look.
Interesting.
Even though it plays like it sometimes.
Yeah,
that's not how the deck was designed, and it does play differently than other control decks that are like more dedicated to that strategy.
I think that to some extent we might be saying the same thing, and we just have different words for it. Because that, like, what you're describing is the same way I played Talion, where the goal is card advantage. The goal is I'm feeding off you casting spells. I need you to take game actions for me to improve in the game.
But I think one thing that this deck doesn't run that a lot of other decks do is any cards other than like there's 4 stacks pieces, right? There's
Drannith, Grapthagers,
Karn the Great Creator, and then Blind Obedience, which is our wing haunt.
Sure.
What it doesn't run, which a lot of other control decks do, is counter spells that are stopping a win but not protecting your win, or stopping something that's
strict serenade type effects. Yes.
Yeah, or like even like mana drain. Things like that are going to be or like Dovin's Veto, I don't know, like 2-mana counter spells.
Yeah.
Those are going to be able to stop a lot of things, but they're not going to back up your win.
Yeah.
Right? So that's the hard, because it's hard to have enough mana to back it up. Right? That's the issue. And then also, like, we just don't want to be, we want to be able to win the game and have a ton of backup when we're ready. That's why we're not on Grand Abolisher.
Oh, you're not on Grand Abolisher?
No.
That's kind of surprising.
We're going to draw too many.
Yeah, no, that's interesting. I think I would probably put GA in if I played it, because I'm very interested in building a Shurikai list. I mean, one of the things that happened the night before this tournament, I'll get into this more when I talk about my Kinnan decision, but I've pretty much not played CDH for a couple months. I took some time off, and this was by far the most uncomfortable I've ever felt going into an event. And the night before the event, when we were playing, and I was looking at your Shurikai deck, just doing pretty much what my Italian deck used to do so successfully, of just draw all the fucking cards, which is what I want to do. And I was like, honestly, right now, if you handed me your Shurikai deck and said you could play this tomorrow, I would have played it over Kinnan. I did ask him. I would have felt more comfortable blind sending your Shurikai deck than I would have sent than I felt playing my Kinnan deck that I have 2,000.
Because I Emrakul him the night before and killed him with his own spell skite on his own Thrasios activation.
That cut deep. That cut deep. That cut very deep. But Shurikai, I think it's an awesomely positioned deck. Your version or something very, very close to it, I plan on picking up sometime and at least trying out. I think it's in a fantastic place in the meta. I think it was an awesome case overall, and colors are a crutch. 2-color deck. Glad to have you back on the team, my guy. Glad to be back on the team. I was in a very unique position post-ban where, they literally gutted my bird. They got rid of it. It's eliminated. My Nadu is no longer an option. But I'm known for Kinnan. And Kinnan got better. Kinnan got better, right? And again, it's one of the things when you look at the bans in these decks and you talk about get better, get worse, or whatever, it's never about the deck in an isolated vacuum, where Kinnan got worse in an isolated vacuum because losing Mana Crypt hurts. Like, that's our best mana rock. We love mana rocks. It makes 3 for us. It makes 2 for everyone else. But yes, it's relative strength compared to the rest of the format. And the decks that improved in relative strength, in my opinion, are the decks that can set up mana production faster than other decks, and that's where Rogsai and Kinnan really have the advantage there, is the mana production early, and decks that can set up card advantage more efficiently than other decks, and that's something like Shurikai that's able to just get down those engines so consistently. That's where you want to be right now, in my opinion. Or you have something that's just uniquely busted in some weird way. I don't really know. Yeah,
I mean, Kinnan is kind of like that too.
Kinnan is very unique.
That's why Kinnan is so strong.
But it's the setup, right? And that's another reason I cut Polywog for this event, which a lot of people told me I shouldn't have done. What I didn't like about Polywog was the normal, stereotypical, obviously different hands of different play patterns, but the most common average play pattern for Kinnan is turn 1 dork, land dork, turn 2 land Kinnan, use your mana dork to cast a rock or something like that. That's the standard Kinnan, turn 1, turn 2. When you throw Polywog into that equation, suddenly you have to go turn 2 Polywog and then turn 3 Kinnan. And that slows your engine down.
Or if you cast Kinnan first, you're not evolving Polywog.
Yeah, then it defeats the purpose.
There's cast the Polywog post Kinnan, but then nothing.
There's not a lot of zeros in the format right now. With losing Mana Crypt and Jewel Lotus really took down the number of zeros. So you have to get a Polywog evolution for it to feel relevant. And the entire advantage of Kinnan right now, based on what I just said about it, is the ability to get down such strong mana production on turn 1, turn 2, where very often you're going into your third turn with 7 mana, where most decks are going into their third turn with at most 4 to 5 on a good hand right now. And so the addition of Polywog being thrown into those early turns, I felt slowed us down. And while Polywog has its moments that it's going to feel busted, the lack of the early game plan advantage, the setting up is what I didn't want to lose for Kinnan. So that's why I ended up cutting it. And you did almost convince me successfully on the copy enchantment effects. We
convinced you on Clever Impersonator.
Yeah, which I do have to shout out Wiley. Wiley's been preaching that card for a long time. But yeah, you convinced me on Clever Enchantment or Copy Enchantment, and then I was like, Mirror Maid is just Copy Enchantment and Copy Artifact, but it had all the same downsides as Karn, where I can't find it. But then we remembered Clever Impersonator exists, and we were like, okay, this is everything. Because I also want another clone. So it worked out beautifully. So I ended up getting to just fall back on the deck that I have the most games on of any deck I've ever played for this event, which was kind of fortunate.
Well, I mean, I think Kinnan is one of the best decks out there right now.
Oh, absolutely.
It's very, very well.
Yeah.
I think, like, back to, like, the discussion about Rogsai, I think Rogsai is, like, probably the most powerful deck at this time. Mm-hmm. But because of where the meta is, it's slower, and it's people are mulling to interaction, because they will... It used to be, you mull to interaction for Rogsai, you immediately die to TNK or Sisei or whatever, right? Now you can sometimes mull to interact, and I don't suggest this, but people are mulling to interaction for Rogsai, countering Rogsai, and then not dying.
Yeah.
Right? Like, that's different. And
they have time.
There's a lot of stacks in the meta. Like, there's a lot of depth in the sound. So Rogsai has been, like, I do think the deck is still a good choice, but I think it's not as good as people thought it would be, and it's not necessarily the best position deck, like originally my impression.
Well, I think it's one of those decks where in a vacuum, it is the strongest deck right now. In a vacuum, it will win the highest percent. Like, I guess not in terms of like the meta and how people are handling it, but yeah, in a vacuum, strongest deck, it is the most powerful thing you can be doing. But in a meta where everyone is aware you're the most powerful thing that everyone can be doing, and so they're literally mulliganing for interaction for you.
Attacking their deck again.
Yeah, literally just saying, I don't want to lose to this.
Deafening silence all over the place.
Oh my God. I wasn't on Rockside for this event. I was on Kinnan, but I saw 0 deafening silences. I saw 0 oof effects on any of my games versus our buddy Snazzerific, Ryan, who was with us in Texas.
I saw so many.
Yeah, Snaz was on Rockside, and he saw, I think he said 6 rule of law effects throughout the Swiss rounds, and something like 5 or 6 oof effects as well. Like, they were just everywhere for him.
In our game alone, there were, with Snazzerific, round 5, there were 3 rule of laws, a Gaddock Teague, and a Collector Oof. And that's all. That's just what I remember. I think there might have been more. But it was rough.
Yeah.
I think my Grafter's Cage and Drain, that's 2. So I helped.
You helped a little bit. I mean, you got to throw down a little bit of stacks.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, and I do want to give some credit to my girlfriend going into this event. I was by far the most nervous I've ever been to. It was an event where I suddenly had pretty much not played CDH for 2 months, almost entirely. I had a few random games in. I was now in a new meta where I had pretty much no practice games on this new meta, and I felt like everyone else did kind of understand what they were doing into it. And I was playing Kinnan, which is a deck I've played a million times, but I hadn't actually played Kinnan for months. So I was just feeling generically out of practice and unprepared, and I was super nervous. And I remember telling her this when I was on the train to the airport, and she texted me back, and she knows nothing about Magic. She just heard me talk about bullshit. And sent me this really cute message of just like, oh, you got this, babe. Like, you got the best deck in the new meta. You're the one who created it. You're so prepared. You got this. And I was like, all right, that was super cute. It's just super cute. Warmed my heart a little bit. But yeah, then we flew down to Texas, stayed on an awesome Airbnb. It was you, me, Ryan, Snazzerific, Pigeon, and the World, Jacob, who's a local over there. And he not the TO technically. He played in it. He was in the top 4. But
TO basically offered to TO for him, so
that's sick. That's super, super cool. But yeah, was it Nexus TCG or was it just Nexus? Nexus TCG. Really cool store down in Texas.
It could have been maybe Nexus Gaming, whatever.
Nexus was in the name, and it's in Waco, Texas. I will say it definitely felt like they were a little unexperienced in terms of hosting CDH events. This felt like a newer thing for them overall. I think overarchingly they did well. I had a very positive experience overall. There were definitely a few things they had to do some judge calls about, which maybe we get into that didn't feel necessary, but a little bit of lack of experience. They were pretty open about that lack of experience. They felt eager to learn, and overall, I would say it was a totally positive tournament overall. And I would absolutely go back and stay at that sick Airbnb again.
Yeah, our Airbnb was awesome. We said the hosts live on the Airbnb as well, but 102-acre property, and so we had our own little house by a lake with a canoe, a golf cart that we could use to drive around the whole property.
Lifted golf cart,
horses, just all kinds of stuff.
Yeah,
we could fish. It was not what we expected because we just booked the easiest thing for 5 people, and that was cheap and nearby.
Yeah,
but it was perfect.
It was amazing.
So lucky. And the fridge even came stocked.
Yeah, dude, they gave us eggs and breakfast sandwiches. There was orange juice already in the fridge. It was amazing.
And all boxes
full of chocolate. Oh my God, I ate so much of that chocolate. I ate so much of that chocolate. Yeah, no, overall, like a wonderful, wonderful weekend and a wonderful experience. But let's get into the tournament a little bit here. We don't have to go.
Sure. Want to just double check the recording before we keep going?
Yeah, absolutely.
Now's a good time to fully look later for Sydney's sake.
No, you're good. So yeah, let's get into the event a little bit here. I don't think we need to go round by round for every single thing and talk about every play that happened, but we can talk quick highlights. And I think it would be good to show what we were against each round, to talk about where the meta's kind of been at and what we faced. What was your round 1, if you remember?
So my round 1 was T&K on the play, myself going second on Shurikai, and then it was Winota, and then Ob Nixilis.
Okay. Was it the Ob that made it to the finals?
I don't believe so.
Okay. Yeah. I'm surprised to see multiple Ob Nixilis. That feels like a deck. Dude, I mean, I love Ob, but I felt like it was dead.
I Swords to Plowshared it on turn 2, and he never did.
That sounds like the correct plan against Ob right now.
He just grinded this out.
Yeah, that's honestly my hesitance to play Ob right now is the Ob plan used to be one of the 3 or 4 plans. Now the Ob plan is the plan, and so getting rid of my Ob is so bad if I choose to play that deck again.
Yeah, 1 removal spell.
Yeah, and was that one of the games that you just got unfortunate on mulls?
Yeah, so basically, I think that keep was not great. So my first 2 rounds, I just kind of mulled low. I mulled to 4.
Yeah,
I believe both times. And I saw a Ristic and a Mana Rock, and it was just not great. I was hoping to top deck better. But I kept, I think, land, Felwarstone, Ristic Study, which sucks. But, going to 3, I didn't think I'd find a better 3. And I was like, oh.
No, I snap keep that 4.
I'm hoping, I think that's a terrible hand. But
on 4, though?
Turn 3, yeah.
Honestly, it gives you a pathway back into the game.
And maybe you should have gone to 3.
Really?
But regardless, I was hoping Winota would get some stacks pieces down, but they just played a bunch of creatures that were, kind of like draftable.
The enablement style tokens.
Just like,
stuff.
Ornithopter type creatures.
Gotcha.
Maybe cost mana even. And they didn't really get stacks pieces down at all. So the TNK basically just grinded us out, drew cards. And then won on turn 4 with Breach. So I got my Rhystic Study down and then died.
I
mean, he had double backup too. So I did have a force.
Okay.
But he had double backup.
Gotcha.
And no one else was helping. And when I
do you think
at that point, TNK was doing nothing. So it's just unfortunate.
And
could have saved it for a Timna, but then died the op, right?
Exactly. And you can't expect Winota or Ob to help. Like, that's just not going to happen.
Yeah.
So it's not realistic.
All the nuts eventually. I mean, turn 4 is not like the nuts, but he just drew.
Yeah. My round 1 was interesting. On the play was the infamous Cruel Claw, which I want to shout out this father-daughter duo.
Yeah.
Both brought 90 or 91 land, infamous Cruel Claw, almost the same deck list to this event. And we're just grinding with it. They love this deck. They were pretty much just mulling for LED every game to just have turn 1 Cruel Claw go. And they were sick. So they were on the play, and they had LED in their first 7 or second 7 for me. I was going second on Kinnan. We had a Gigantha Sisse deck going third, and we had mono black Braids going fourth, which I was shocked that this deck never had removal.
Very non-meta pod.
Yeah, no, it was super weird. And this game went ridiculous because I kept a hand that was honestly slow and greedy, but it was a comfortable first 7 on my first game back on Kinnan that I believe it was 3 lands, Basalt, Thrasios, Force of Will. I was just like, Simic Signet. That was my hand. So it was like, okay, this is a turn 3 win if I choose to shoot that shot there. Maybe. Going second against these decks, maybe that works. Infamous Cruel Claw, like I said, they land LED, crack that shit, get Cruel Claw down. And I immediately say to the table, I'm like, if we have any piece of removal, we just get rid of this and they're out of the game and we don't have to deal with whatever's going to slip off the top here. Because obviously, if they're a Cruel Claw deck, they're built around Cruel Claw. So I think the first flip was Sire Insanity. And I used the Force pitching my Thrasios, which really hurt to do because it took away my win line with Basalt. And then I end up landing the Basalt, and then they blow it up anyway, even though I show them I have nothing. It's going to be one random flip. But that's fine. If you don't want me to win from mana, I get it. And then he ends up flipping into Decree of Annihilation and says, fuck it. And Decree of Annihilation gets rid of everything. There are no permanents on the battlefield. Yep. All of our hands are exiled as well. There is absolutely nothing. But the advantage of you're playing 90 lands is you win that race. And so he gets down Cruel Claw after 5 turns because he just top decks 5 lands in a row because that's what his deck's designed to do. And his first flip after that, at that point, is Ulamog, the one that destroys or exiles a couple permanents on cast and then has Annihilator 4 and Indestructible. So there's just no way we're ever getting rid of this thing. He's got a bunch of deck left. And one of the cards I've drawn on my few turns was a Pact Negation. And at this point, when he has the Ulamog on the stack, I have 1 land, Sisse has 1 land, Braids has 1 land. There is nothing going on. And I'm looking at this Pact, and I show it to the table, and I say, look, I don't think there's any realistic chance we win this game, but if we let this Ulamog resolve, there is a 0% chance we win this game. So I'm willing to fall on the sword with this Pact of Negation here under the consideration that magically, if you guys can get this game to a draw, which I don't expect to happen, but magically, if we can, we take that draw. And they both snap agreed, where I also made them show me their hands so I could have some glimpse of hope, where Sisse showed me non-creature counterspells, and Braid showed me Vampiric Tutor, a couple combo things, like some realistic minor path to victory. They gave me just a glimmer of hope. So I cast the Pact, I fall on the sword, the Ulamog goes to the graveyard, they play out a few more turns of the game, 3 more turns, where at this point, the Infamous Cruel Claw deck, because it exiles, is like an Atali trigger where it really gets rid of the cards. He's only got 2 cards left in library when he puts an Emrakul in the stack. The new one that's 12 mana, gain control of all creatures. There are no other creatures on the battlefield one. And that's when he remembers, oh shit, my Ulamog was supposed to shuffle in. At that point, it's been 3 full turn cycles, and that is just a missed trigger. So Judge came over, confirmed it was a missed trigger, sadly did not get cycled back in, and because he didn't have the damage on board to kill us within the time frame before decking himself, the game did magically go to a draw, and the Pact of Negation really mattered. And this was after the game is where the judge staff kind of showed their inexperience with CDH events. I know some people don't like the Suicidal Pact to maybe get the game of a draw. It's a real play thing you can play for. But they thought that might be illegal. And so they wanted to look into the rulings of CDH and make sure that was something that was okay for me to do. Went through a whole process with that, discovered their exact words to me was, we don't like it, but it's okay. And then we moved on and I was able to get the draw round 1. So it was a weird game. And Decree of Annihilation is a card. That was the first time I've ever seen that resolved in CDH, and it was not fun. I've seen it. It was not fun. It's like when you're playing like Tevish Rog. You see that kind of shit? Oh, Tybalt as commander?
Yeah, I mean, I'm not saying it was good.
No, that's interesting. Like the Valky one, or yeah, that seems kind of gas actually. Yeah, round 2 for you, similarly unexciting, low mall.
Yeah, so round 2, let's see, it was also Team K on the play, also going second on Shurikai, and then it was Magda and Tyam. And so I think I built a 4 again. I don't remember what I kept this time.
Yeah.
I think it was like a Grim Monolith or something, and I forget exactly. Doesn't really matter. Regardless, the Team K goes turn 2 Nas on the play, and doesn't get there. This is Ganesh. And he goes down to like 2 life or 3 life, and then stops. He's going to go to the turn cycle to try to win. He used a Wish Claw.
Okay.
For the Nas. So he gives the Wish Claw. He gave to Tyam. And so Tyam got a Deafening Silence, and then gave the Wish Claw to me. I think I made a deal not to use it because, or whatever, I forget exactly. But so Deafening Silence comes down before his turn 3, and Magda is slowly developing. Has I think Magda out maybe 1 dwarf, isn't close to like 5 treasures yet. But then Team K has a tap mana vault. So he's dying to mana vault in like 2 turns.
Oh.
So he did have a line that we saw, but like Deafening Silence stops it, and he was dying to mana vault anyway because it was a Final Fortune line. So,
gotcha.
Because Esper Sentinel swung at him for 1. So
got him.
But so he didn't get there, and then so he just ends up dying. We attack him and kill him. I get an Unwinding Clock Shurikai in play, and then I pass to Magda, who has 1 treasure and two dwarves, including Magda, and I have like a Fierce, I have like a Miscast or something. I have 2 counter spells in hand. I've got mana open, white mana open, like 7 cards in hand, and an Unwinding Clock. I'm like, okay, cool, I got there. He drops a Roaming Throne.
The one thing you can't stop.
Yeah. Activate, don't fight anything, swings, and wins.
Yep.
That's just an artifact dwarf and you won. So I'm like, tough beats. Like, this was definitely my game at that.
And that was Rust, right? Yeah.
That was Rust. And again, so the Deafening Silence really slowed me down. And this is also like, Shurikai is trying to play proactively. So I would have been able to develop way more, probably a 1 ring and Unwinding Clock in play.
Yeah.
Like a turn before, but the Deafening Silence, which we need. Like, we need it.
It's one of those awkward things where I'll talk about a similar play in one of my later games where I had someone blow up my board on purpose because it was it's like what you have to do sometimes. It's unfortunate. My round 2, I also mulled to 4. I was in 4 seat. I kept Land, Birds, Spellskite, Consphinx, which is just like the prayer of hope of I'm gonna draw mana here. I'm gonna get my Spellskite for protection, and somehow I'm gonna land this Consphinx, and it's gonna carry me. That's not what happened. We did hit some mana, which was fortunate. So we were able to get another rock and a land on the first couple draws, which got me to Kinnan Spellskite, and then turn 4 maybe I throw down the Consphinx, completely hellbent. And at this situation with the table, there's an Elsha was on the play. It was Traxa going second, very respected Traxa player, and a super respected mono black Crick player going third. And the Traxa player and the Crick player knew each other very, very well. And yeah, this game weirdly took longer than you would expect with that pod because Crick just never really shot the shot. So there wasn't this opening up of interaction at any point. They were trying to play it slow. And that let me get this Consphinx down, where then I just told the table, I was like, look, very interestingly, I threw down the Consphinx when Elsha had a revealed Force of Will. And the reason the Force was revealed was in response to his Crick. The Crick player convinced him to not use it and take it back. But we knew he had the Force, but the Crick player revealed his hand when he did that. And what he showed was a deterministic win line. And so because he showed a deterministic win line through a creature that required the Force of Will, I knew I was safe to play my Consphinx because he literally couldn't use the Force on it because then we deterministically just died to Crick. So I did that, and then, there's a Spellskite with to protect it a little bit, and they had multiple removal spells. So immediately the Elsha player gets rid of the Spellskite, and then I convinced the Crick player, I'm like, look, I'm hellbent. You need this game to continue as well. Let me draw a few cards, and then I'll let you kill it. He ends up letting me draw 4 cards and then killing it, which leads to a turn where I'm able to Court of Calling on top of an opposition agent to get a Trophy Mage to put Basalt in hand, revealed for the cycle, into Crick player saying he's going to get Razaketh, and I know you hate the card, but I mana drained this Razaketh, which felt so good. I know. Yeah, no, in Canada it makes sense.
Canada's a little different with mana.
100%. But yeah, so I mana drained a fucking hard cast Razaketh to then untap and win when no one just had shit for it. Treasure Vault Basalt got me there in multiple games this time, which felt great. It's a really nice line to have. Yeah, so round 2 I was able to get the win. Felt good to go in at 6 points. I was like, okay, get my first win back in tournament space, feeling a little more comfortable again. And then round 3, you finally had just a good Shurikai game.
Yeah, this is what the deck does. You just get multiple draw engines online. You walked over, so you might remember even more of what I had. But I remember that I had I think 3 draw engines in play. Yes. I had wiped the board. I don't remember all of my opponents, I think, in this round, but regardless.
They don't matter for this one, though.
I think it was all mid-range tracks. I believe there was other draw engines in play. But I had 3 draw engines, and I had a ton of cards in hand, like 7 when I passed. I discarded on the hand side. And I had like I was holding up.
I remember your hand.
Yeah. What was
your hand was Force of Will, Miscast, Force of Negation, Dispel, I think it was. And then you had, it was more than 7 cards. You also had Cyclonic Rift and Chain, or not.
I also looked after I passed because I drew more.
Yeah, you drew more. You had, I forget if it was Cyclonic Rift or Into the Floodmaw and Chain of Vapor. And then you also had another copy enchantment effect in hand, like 2 lands and a mana rock. And I was like, oh, so you have 2 pieces of onboard removal. You have 4 counter spells. You had at least 4.
I think it was
when I looked. It was ridiculous. Like, it's just like, yeah.
Cards, and the whole point of the deck is like, yeah, you have a bunch of free interaction and 1 mana interaction so that you can stop them and then win. So
yeah,
that's what happened.
Which that's, again, going back to what you said before about not liking Mana Drain, not liking Dovin's Veto in this deck. It was the same thing with telling you beforehand. These are not decks that produce a ton of mana all the time. Right. Their mana efficiency.
For my drawing.
Yes. So like having free or hyper efficient interaction is paramount, right? Top decking a Mana Drain doesn't help you if you can't cast it. You need to be able to cast your spells, and that's why you're even on days, which is like
days
looks weird. Yeah.
On misdirection and
I love misdirection. I love misdirection. It gets people. People are ready for it.
I considered foil.
Foil, I think, is a stretch. Foil, I think,
it's not it, but I had to look at it.
Dude, Naystrom hit me up like a week ago. There's like, wait, what? He's on Intimeshi now? Oh, my God, is it good?
I don't know. I don't think he's.
I told him I don't think it's good.
When I talked to him,
Okay. That's pretty.
He's on more islands.
100% more islands. But yeah, my round 3. Let me think about what this one was real quick here. Oh, dude, my round 3 and round 4 were almost identical. They both round 3 and round 4 went Rogstein to play, me at second seat, Blue Farm going third. Both the same way. And this one was a round where it was a Trinisphere game. Yeah. It was just I slam a turn 2 Trinisphere. And it was, again, Rogstein to play. It's something you can like effectively pre-game politic with right now. Right. Where I'm like, hey guys, here. Let's not lose to this together. And so I look at my first 7 and I literally look at Blue Farm and I say, after turn 2, I got us. I can slow down this game. I need you to cover on turn 1, which he was able to get a hand that was able to do that. Didn't end up needing to do it too badly here. But yeah, I think it was just like they got down a Wishclaw and then they passed me on turn 2. I slammed this Trinisphere, which ended up being a conversation with the Blue Farm player where he was like, man, like I feel like I have to counter this. And I said very clearly, it was like, I understand that this is rough for you. I understand this is going to slow your development, but this is our situation, right? Like, this is what we need to defeat, and this is the reason I kept the hand. He was telling me, he was like, literally play anything else. And I was like, I have nothing else I can play. I kept this hand for this card, for doing this on turn 2. I have no other game plan, and I'm not just going to pass the turn and do nothing and develop nothing. So I end up playing Trinisphere, and he ends up, like, really hammering on it, like, thinking pretty hard about it. If he counters it, ends up deciding not to counter it, let it go through, and then... wow, my deck did me some solids. My turn 3 draws let me go Kinnan One Ring. And then my One Ring draws on turn 4 let me Trophy Mage for Basalt into playing a Clever Impersonator to copy that Wishclaw Talisman to get the win with the outlet there. So ended up getting... Clever Impersonator, be copy artifact, copy enchantment, and a clone is kind of hot. I'm a big fan. It can legally...
You no longer want the Dockside clones.
No.
But the Draw Engine clones
are sick. That one, I think that card's going to start seeing
spinning into Ristic Study with Kinnan
seems really fucking
or smothered.
Good. Yeah, and it can legally copy a Wishclaw work, which is super sick. We'll talk about that later. But yeah, that was my round 3. How was your round 4?
Yeah, my round 4 was good. I think I remember this one a little more. So I think it was TNT. Yeah, it was TNT on the play. Traxa going second. I was going third, and then it was Rogstein going fourth. This game was Draw Engine Tribal. Don't remember exactly how it developed, but basically it was, TNT gets a draw. Or I think the Traxa got the first draw engine. They had a gemstone and a really good start.
Okay.
So I think they got maybe Esper Sentinel turn 1 with extra mana, bunch of mana. But then, I think I had Esper Sentinel start as well. And then TNT goes, Ristic, I think, or Mystic, whatever, and Natimna. So, lots of draw engines developing. Rogstein kind of goes slow, doesn't get there. He just mold blow and then I think he got stuffed.
Yeah.
Regardless, everyone is drawing a ton of cards. I think there's like 3 Ristics in play. I get my copy enchantment tech.
Yeah.
So I get my own, and I think I had double Draw Engine as well. So I think I had like Esper. I think I had Esper, Ristic, and a Mystic.
I mean, most of the games I looked over at you had several. Like it was yeah.
That might not be exactly right, but whatever. So TNT goes. They like start tapping low. The what's it called? A Traxa deck they're going to quarter calling for Thoracle. We thought it was Grand Abolisher at first. They only had like 2 mana left over. We're like, we got to counter this. So we stop it. I think I get someone else to stop it. Or maybe I helped as well. I think they backed it up once. But then they pass with like 1 mana up. I go to my turn and I have I have a Displacer Kitten in hand, a ton of draw, or a ton of gas in hand, right? And a ton of interaction.
This was the game they let the kitten through.
So they let the kitten how good it was going to be. I had like a copy artifact, a Grim Monolith, and there was a Wishclaw on board too. So Kitten resolves first, and then after that, I just start casting spells, making a ton of mana. I let them draw. They probably were at 30 cards or more in hand at the end of this turn. But, and I wasn't planning on pushing, but then I drew the Kitten for turn. And I was like, okay, well, if this resolves, I don't think I can lose.
Yeah, no, you're unbeatable.
I just worked up to getting Coveted Jewel into play.
Yeah.
They fought over it. But I literally my hand was just like, probably like 9 pieces of interaction.
Mm-hmm.
Like 9. And I tutored for more with Wishclaw.
Yeah.
Because
you can keep...
So I
You can activate and flicker it.
Yeah.
Holy shit.
Activate Wishclaw Talisman, respond on the stack, flicker it, and then just keep going. And it was insane.
That's
also I had Shurikai in place. I'm able to
ridiculous.
If I need to find something else, I can just flicker Shurikai, Mystical Tutor.
Well, that's the main thing with the Kitten Shurikai, right? Is doing that. But having a Wishclaw, because people don't realize.
The main thing is mana.
Yeah, but also one thing that people forget about with Wishclaw is you do not lose control of it. It's not like you sacrifice something where it's automatically in the graveyard, right? You don't lose control of your Wishclaw when you activate it. It's still on your side of the battlefield. So you can activate your Wishclaw, put the tutor on the stack, respond with something, flicker it, have it re-enter as your Wishclaw again. And it's a different Wishclaw. You do not lose control of that one, and you still get the tutor. That's so sick. That's so sick.
No, it felt good. And I think like the big thing there is like knowing when to push, right? It's like I was just going to pass the turn because I think I win that game if I pass the turn too.
Mm-hmm.
But then with the Kitten, if the Kitten resolves there, I have so many cards in hand, and I'm drawing off of all their interaction too. So I'm just like drawing gas as we go. And I think I even resolved a Born to like do stuff over the top.
Let you cast mana rocks for more Kitten flickers type things. Yeah,
right, exactly. But I just know that everything I do, they can't unless they resolve a silence, which I had so much interaction. They're not going to be able to stop because I can just keep doing. I can just put win con on the stack at this point and just win the game.
Easy. My round 4 was sick. My round 4 I'm actually really, really proud of. It was so cheesy and completely luck, but I'm still proud of it. Where it was, again, same pod where we had Roxanne to play, me going second, Blue Farm in third. I don't even remember what deck was fourth right now. I just mulled for mana on this one where like the Blue Farm told me they got it for Roxanne. I was like, sick. So I just keep it. I was like, sick. I just went land Soaring Felwar on turn 1. And expecting to like have stuff for them after that, right? But the rest of my hand was interaction. It was like 2 counter spells and a Pongify. So I was like, I keep mana here and I have interaction. So I didn't mulligan for interaction for Roxai, but I had it too. Like one of mine was a Force of Negation or something. So I was prepared. And Roxai I had a Dispel, and I did have the mana up from Felwar Stone for a Dispel. That was one of my counter spells. And so Roxai on turn 2, cast Dark Rit. And I look at him and I say, man, convince me not to do this right now. like what are you doing? And he goes, I'm just trying to wheel. And I was like, what kind of wheel? And he was like, Windfall. And I look, and everyone's at, like, I have the most cards in hand at 4, and they're all interaction, which doesn't do anything for me. And so I'm like, if you're wheeling and then essentially passing a turn with only 4 cards, like, I'm kind of okay with that. So I make a deal with him where I say, okay, agree to not cast any other spells this turn and we're good. So, like, he can't just randomly go off with, like, a God tier wheel. He agrees to cast no other spells, shakes my hand on it, end up drawing a hand that couldn't have cast anything anyway. But so Windfalls us, and I get 4 random cards. Meanwhile, at this position, Magda was the 4th player in this pod. Roxai is now tapped out. Blue Farm is now tapped out. Magda is now tapped out. I'm going into my turn 2. The 4 cards I draw are Lotus Petal, Chain of Vapor, Treasure Vault, and Moonsilver Key. I end up top decking Gaia's Cradle for turn, which is so irrelevant. And I sit there and I'm like, all right, guys, I need a second. I have to do some math. And I start, and so I start mathing this out, and I realize by Chain of Vaporing my Soul Ring after getting out in Kinnan, it gives me Xaxis mana to go for the Basalt Treasure Vault line. And I look up at Blue Farm after I realize this, and I say to him very clearly, I say, look, I can do something fucked up right now. Show me any piece of interaction, and I do nothing scary here, because I don't want to make you blow your interaction so we don't have it for Roxai. Very simple conversation, said super respectfully. We talked about it after game. He loved that I did that. And he told me, he was like, I have interaction. And I said, show it to me. And he said, you play your game, man. He had interaction that he could cast because it costs mana. Yeah. Which if someone doesn't show it to me, I call that bluff 100% of the time. But so, yeah, I did that line where I Felwar Stone land for Kinnan, Tap Soul Ring for 3, use 2 on Moonsilver Key, play Lotus Petal, correct Lotus Petal for 2 blue, use 1 blue on Chain of Vapor, bounce back Soul Ring, use the colors from Soul Ring to replay Soul Ring, gets me to 4 mana, so 1 to crack Moonsilver Key, 3 to play Basalt, and then Treasure Vault for Xaxis. Yeah, no one had anything, so I was able to get just a turn 2 cheesy win there, but I felt like I did a Rogsai thing because I used Chain of Vapor for mana.
Dude, this game's getting wheeled into the wind.
Whoa. There was a revealed win for the Sphinx, but yeah. But no, that one I felt really good about, and that put me in a first seed overall in the tournament. I was 3 wins, 1 draw, 16 points. Felt super confident, and I was feeling good at this point, right? Like I was feeling okay. I'm back in the tournament vibe. I'm back on Kinnan. Like things are going well. Things are feeling okay. Yeah, I was feeling a lot happier, a lot more confident. I was just having a good time joking around with people, just like playing in tournaments again at that point.
It's fun.
And then you were going to win it in. And the last thing you want to do with a win it in is see your friend across the table who's also want to win it in.
I mean, that was, I don't know. I've played Friends before. That's how it goes apparently. But going into round 5, I had the best hand. It was so good. My hand was Commandeer, blue card. I think it was maybe 3 lands and a mana vault.
Okay.
Right? So, or maybe 2 lands and a mana vault, whatever. Turn 1, I'm going second again. So it's TNK.
Yeah.
Me going second. I went second so many times. Same. And then Rocco going third, and Snazerific, my friend, on Broxai going fourth. Poor guy.
So sorry. Snaz got dunked to this tournament.
For 7, I snap keep. And Team K keeps for 7 as well, or maybe second 7, whatever. Run 7's the other. I think Snaz is the only one who mulls low. And TNK goes land, Spirit Guide, Rite of Flame, Ristic Study. I look at it like a Commandeer.
Yes.
Turn 0 Ristic Study.
It's the dream. It's the dream.
And I'm like, okay, I won this game.
Yeah.
Because I've turned 2 Shurikai as well with activation. Like, this is awesome. I can probably stop the Rogsai. They're probably not winning turn 1, and then I'm going to draw too many cards for them to, do anything. So, go to my turn, cast a mana ball, pass. Rocco goes, Deafening Sounds. I'm like, cool, whatever. Rogsai's not doing anything. Excuse me. Yeah, so Rogsai's not doing anything, and I'm like, great. Rogsai just goes land Rograk and pay for Ristic.
Got it.
Like, and then TNK goes untap, no land drop, Chain of Vapor, Ristic Study. I'm like, whatever, that's fine. That makes sense, right?
Sure.
They want to get it sucks they had it, right?
Yeah.
And they have a Tundra, so it's not even like they can red blast it. But anyways, I go to my turn, I'm like, okay, cool, Shurikai activate. Like, I'm feeling great. Like, this is awesome. Rog can't win. TNK stuck on 1 land. Like, Rocco, there's no dockside, whatever. And I'm just, doing the thing. I'm going to draw cards and I'm going to win. And then Rocco untaps, land, collect roof. And I'm like, This was the perfect start, and it all fell apart.
Yeah.
But anyways, game progresses, that sucks. It just progresses really slowly. TNK eventually draws lands, plays the Ristic Study. I copy enchantment immediately.
Of course.
I think I even did it like instant speed because I had a Valley Flood color. So I immediately copy enchanted. I was like, fine. I want your Ristic, like Commandeer, if you were a copy, whatever. I want your Ristic. So, game slowly progresses. Rocco ends up getting 3 silence effects. Sorry, excuse me. 3 Rule of Law effects into play. Mm-hmm. But I have Mishra's Workshop in play. I have a mana vault that I eventually just untap. I have a ton of mana.
Did you get rid of the oof at that point? Or?
So the oof attacked into TNK, and I gave them a spirit.
I love that so much.
And they were like, oh.
I got you, my guy.
So luckily I was actually starting to draw a Shurikai, but not too much. But I'm sitting there with instant speed, Coveted Jewel, and copy artifact for it, and unwinding clock. But I have to wait because I want to wait for their turn so that it doesn't get countered. The first opportunity I could do it was this rotation. So Rocco, the first time they cast Rocco, they go, or maybe second time actually. I think they were able to bounce it with Kyrian, whatever. They go Rocco for 2, and I'm like, okay, cool, pass, whatever. Because I don't want to, force the issue on Rocco's turn because they can both interact with me, the other 2 blue players.
Yeah.
He gets Gaddock Teague, which says cannot cast spells with mana value 4 or greater, right? So obviously X spells as well, but I don't care about that. I just can't cast my Unwinding Clock or Cup Shield, which would have won me the game. But that's up. But anyway, I'm still in a good spot. Still versus Study. Still have a Shurikai.
How many lands did you have at this point? This late?
I think I don't even know if I missed any land drops. I had so many.
Oh, but you just. Oh, yeah, you can't cast 4 or greater. Yeah, it does, yeah. It doesn't matter. Which I remember looking over at this game and looking at your hand, and I was so confused why you had not won the game. I was like,
Deafening Silence and all again. Yeah, it was High Noon, Deafening Silence, Archon of Maria, Gaddock Teague, and then Oof died eventually.
Yeah, what are you gonna do?
So eventually, we were going to time last turn. we knew the TNK player tutored up a Cyclonic Rift because it was the only thing he could do. He had a Ranger Captain blade. We didn't have remove for it. So, but there was 3 Deafening Silences, and I was like, okay. So he cracks Ranger, and we're like, okay, we got to try to stop this. I didn't find a silence. I was looking, but I was like, okay, cool. So now that this is now that we're here, I can have you basically remove all of the rule lost. I think I drew a Chain Vapor at some point, on that turn. I think I don't really remember, but we were able to get rid of the rule loss. High Noon. I think you could tap High Noon to kill something. So he killed TNK's Polymorph Prodigy. So we got rid of all the rule laws, and I made a deal with him. I was like, hey, let me just go for a win here on top of the Ranger Cap crack, and I'll offer draw, right? Or just get some way to stop him, right?
Yeah.
Because I had Coveted Jewel and Copy Artifact. So if that resolves, I'm good. And I had the mana.
Yeah.
So there's a big fight, but unfortunately, I just didn't draw enough interaction. He had a silence on top of my Coveted Jewel, and I just didn't have enough interaction to stop it. And then I cast it to Fairy, tapped out to cast a Fairy, and I was like trying to bait one more piece. I was like, oh, I got this. Don't worry. Kind of had like a moment, like kind of a fake moment of realization so that he would counter it. He didn't have any more interaction. I was sitting on a Mindbreak Trap, and he only cast 2 spells.
So worse.
So I'm just like,
this.
because if I counter the silence, I win on top of him.
Yeah.
And it's easy, but didn't get there. So he won.
Yeah.
Yeah. He actually messed up his Thorkel line.
I remember.
Cast his local
my
Fury that
yes.
and then tried to hold priority on the ETB to cast Tainted Path.
Which
we're like,
if he hadn't won that game, I would have felt so bad.
Oh,
I was watching at that point, and that's just the shit. Because again, you also have to recognize in this situation, you guys are the last game that's going on in round 5. It is a win and in for all 4 of you, and there is a circle of people watching this man try and execute his win after he just fought through everything to resolve the silence and get to that position. And then I saw the pain in his face when you guys told him he couldn't cast a Tainted Pact. Fortunately, he was able to just sorcery speed, cast a Tainted Pact, find another line. He did get there, which he deserved to get there in a weird way, but I felt so bad.
It was tough, but I was like, at the same time, I'm like, if I get this draw, I'm in.
I wish. Yeah, and of course.
If I get this draw, I'm in. Didn't make it, went in, didn't happen. But with 11 points, I would have been in. So.
Yeah, unfortunate. I was hoping we'd battle out in our whatever 9th finals. It's been a lot.
I'll definitely bring Shurikai back at some point. But I think sometimes hey, Deafening Silence into Collector Oof into bounce back the Ristic immediately.
I'm definitely.
That should I'm gonna bring it again and redeem it.
I'm definitely down for a tournament sometime, not the Boyle, but some tournament that we both go to on Shurikai and just see what happens. Sounds like a really fun time. My round 5 just went to a draw. Not a pregame draw. It was a late game ID decision, with 3 minutes left on the clock. Where the one hilarious thing from this game is we had a Zur on the board for several turns that had a Necro, but because of there was some type of interaction effects, they couldn't really go for it. It might have been some silency type of shit. I don't remember exactly what it was, but also Magna doing things. They couldn't just shoot a Thorkel line because of the interaction pieces on board, including there being Grafdigger's Cage and stuff, made it difficult. So they end up. We talk about this out of time they have the turn before, and we convince them not to do out of time because it also blows them out, and neither me or TNT, this game went Magnum to play me in second, TNT in third, Zur in fourth. They end up just getting the blue make your creature of no abilities thing for Magda because Magda passed on the activation, so then there's no interaction point for them to tap their things, crack their treasures, do their activation. So it just enters with no abilities at that point. The following turn cycle, you're gonna love this. The TNT cast an Emrakul, and this is after I worldly tutored for Hullbreaker Horror with a ring active, so I could do that, and he silenced me on top of the ring activation. So he knows I have Hullbreaker Horror in hand. So then he casts Emrakul to take my next turn, and so I look at the Zur player, and I'm like, all right, when you go to combat, I'm gonna flash in this Hullbreaker Horror. And I need you to out of time. I need you to get out of time so we don't lose this fucking game. Because I had win with Hullbreaker, so through. Yeah. So he ends up doing that, which just puts this game in this fucked slow state. And then we're looking at Magda. They're going into their turn. There's 3 minutes left on the clock. And me and the TNT player were locked. We were 1 and 2 seed overall. And then both of these guys were at 7. So they needed to win. The draw did nothing for them. And I'm looking at Magda. I'm like, I'm imagining you can't realistically win from this position with this much time left and your Magda out of time and everything. And he's like, yeah, I'm kind of cooked. And I'm like, so realistically, I get 2 turns in a row here because my current hand does nothing and my creatures are all gone. So unless he can remove this out of time, he can't do shit with my turn. So then I'm going to get 2 turns and this game's going to go to a draw anyway. So I looked at the TNT. I was like, are you going to just make this a draw? And he was like, absolutely. And the Magda and the Zur player was like, yeah, we can't do anything. So we'll just take the draw. He ended up playing out his Emrakul turn with me for fun. Drew nothing except for a random Mirage Mirror, which would have let him kill me because there was a Necropotence on board. So he could have killed me with a Necro, but the game would have gone to a draw regardless. We did play out my second turn if I got it for funsies, and I would have won with the Tidespout at that point if somehow he couldn't have killed me. But yeah, that just went to a draw, and at that point I ended up first seed overall in the event, going into top 16. Sadly, you did not make it, which was unfortunate. I was really hoping to play against you or Snaz or Pigeon or somebody.
That's what happens when you don't choose to play the best deck sometimes.
You had fun, but also you definitely hit the low end of variance on nulls talking through your games. Like needing to go to 4
games and those 2 games.
Yeah, needing to go to 4 multiple times, like that's not something that should regularly happen in a tournament, especially in a deck that is as consistently built as yours. Like when I've mulliganed Shurikai just goldfishing, I don't think I ever went 4. Like that's just an uncommon thing and an unfortunate realization.
What you need is either a lot of mana or...
Yeah, both are such realistic play patterns in your deck. So just unfortunate. Definitely low end of variance. Same with like Snaz. Like having to go against Deafening Silence and Oof every single game is just not where Rogsai wants to be, and not realistically, which is statistically should happen every single game.
Yep.
So that was unfortunate. But then top 16. Yeah, you're good.
Changes.
Sorry for that one vape smoke that just went straight in your face. I blew it and the wind just went boom. Yeah.
Smoking.
Yeah, you're good.
Nicotine or anything?
So we go into top 16. Top 16 games were interesting pods here.
Yeah. Every time, make sure that it's like a full reset. Give it a little pause before you...
Sure.
That's strict for editing. Does that make sense? So it's like rather than...
Yeah. Are you able to hear that noise?
I'm sure.
Okay.
Oh, it's on top.
Okay. Sorry if you can hear the wood in the background. Whatever. We go into top 16 here, and I'm on the play. We have a Rog Thrast going second. We have a Blue Farm going third, and we have a Sisay going fourth. I keep a hand that is only 1 land, which is super risky, but it has Birds of Paradise, Bloom Tender, Ristic Study, and a Force of Will. Yeah, it was on the first 7, I believe. Maybe second 7. And unfortunately, did not draw to land turn 2, which would have made this hand so much better. But it does let me go turn 3 because I use Birds and Land for Bloom Tender. Turn 3, I'm able to use Birds and Land for Kinnan, and then tap the Bloom Tender for tapped out Ristic. Unfortunately, the position, like all I really have is Land, Birds, Bloom Tender, Kinnan, Ristic, and TNK tries to cast a Bowmaster, and I'm forced to blow my Force of Will on this Bowmaster, which I really didn't want to do. And I think he tutored for that Bowmaster because he Imperial Sealed, cast that Bowmaster, then did nothing the rest of the game. So I think that was his tutor target, which I don't think is correct. I understand the mindset of you're against Rog, Thrast, Kinnan, and Sisay. So I get that. And Sisay already had a fish on board, so there was some amount of draw. But I don't know. I feel like in third seat, just trying to rely on a Bowmasters to somehow carry you to victory doesn't feel like a high optimized line to me. What do you think? You played a lot of TNK.
To the fish, dude.
100%. I like he tutored when he had 3 mana on his next turn. So I was expecting a Ristic.
Right. Ristic is the one in that pot.
Yeah, I was 100% expecting a turn 2 Ristic, and instead he went with Bowmasters.
Yeah, I don't know. I mean, I think the time that you're going to want to do early Bowmaster, usually you're not tutoring for it. Usually it's because you're following up with Tymna.
Yeah.
Because basically you have 2 attackers, right?
That makes sense.
But that means you need extra mana as well. Just doesn't seem great.
Yeah, no, it didn't seem like the right choice there, but it's what he went with. I respect the choice. The game then ended up getting very weird very quickly because me and Sisay both have draw engines now. And I do have, even though not a lot of lands, pretty solid mana with Land, Birds, Bloom Tender with Kinnan. And the Rog Thrast player, after seeming like they had nothing going on the first few turns of the game, just slams a Dosin. And immediately none of us have anything for this Dosin except for me having a Pact of Negation up drawn. And I'm very hesitant to cast this Pact of Negation because it feels like I just lose to Sisay with the way Sisay developed. They were already like had a Kinnan on board, had a Sisay on board. They were 1 land short of activating. More was still out. They were 1 land short of activating Sisay at that point. But I'm like, you're super close. Like if I cast this Pact of Negation and essentially double time walk myself because I don't do anything, or I guess single time walk myself on my next turn. Like there's no way I beat you because I also don't have interaction for you right now, and I won't have mana up for it. So I had to make a deal with Sisay where I was like, honestly, I view the realistic chance of me losing this game so high if I just cast this pact right now. I'm unwilling to do it without a deal with you. Where what I told him, I said, you're not allowed to not develop, but you cannot win the game. I have to get my turn that comes after my pact turn. So like my pact turn where I pay for my pact, I want to make sure I have my turn after that. And if you're not willing to make the deal, I'm just not going to cast the pact. I'm just going to let them win because I'm not just going to like just throw the game in that instance because I had nothing going on otherwise at that time. My hand didn't do anything relevant and they were just like so close to winning with such a massive grip. So they ended up agreeing to the deal where what happened was I Pact of Negation the Dosin, and then Rog Thrast with the remaining mana casts Eternal Witness, puts Dosin back in hand, passes the turn. So I'm like, okay, like they're still going for this the following turn. And that's after I have to pay for my pack. So like, I'm telling them, like, I will not be able to help them the next time.
Right.
You guys got to do something. Blue Farm is just literally, I don't think they took another game action outside of playing a Mana Rock for the rest of this game after the Bowmaster. Like they did nothing. And maybe they cast a Timid at one point. I'm not even sure. They did get to 5 mana held up at one point. So I thought they might've been holding up a Nas, which I was worried about, but I guess not. Sisay on their next turn, they get down, whatever. Maybe they didn't have Sisay yet. They had Sisay on that turn, and then they're still exactly 1 land short of the activation on mana-wise, but they have the Kinnan and everything to like get a good activation out of it. Still a giant grip. Pass to me, I pay for Pact. Very fortunately, they have a silence at that point for the Dosin. So they do it in his upkeep, and what they did in response to the silence was flash in a Valley Floodcaller. And I talked to them, I'm like, look, I do have a piece of interaction at this point for Mystic Draws, and I'm pretty sure Sisay's also got some interaction at this point. Like, I would recommend you don't push right now and not just like throw this. Because if you cast that Dosin and you can't win,
right, like
this game is so cooked. And so he ends up not casting the Dosin in that moment, which was nice. And then I was able to leave 2 mana up from like Pay with Pact with Bloom Tender Birds, and I had 2 lands. At that point I did draw land, so I was able to make another land drop. And then on the end step before Sisay's turn, just to keep him off of activation, to even like remove the temptation of going for a win, I Psych Rift to Sisay, Mini Rift to Sisay. And he's like, okay, he lets it happen. It turns out he could have countered that, but he mentally thought that if he countered it, it would look too much like he was going to break the deal, which I respect him being a very honest person in that deal. So he lets that go, untaps, just like holds up a ton of mana and passes to my turn. And I'm like, okay, like he still has Dosin in hand. Do you have anything for Dosin at this point? He's like, I have absolutely nothing for Dosin. And I'm like, okay. So I say, here's what I can do at this point. And I toss him a Void Winnower. And I'm like, I don't even know if this does something, but it's the only thing in my hand that I think actively interacts with creature combo in this regard, where he might just not be able to cast some things. And then I show him, I say, my only way to get to this is this Tezzeret that I also show him, only showing this is a player because obviously they're the only person with relevant interaction that would matter for the situation. So I tell him, I'm like, I promise you I will not win this turn. Like, obviously I will have infinite mana, but I'm not going to win this turn. I'd never said I was only going to cast a Void Winnower, but I said I would not win that turn. And so he lets it go. I cast the Tezzeret, I get Basalt Monolith. There's a big conversation about it at this point where the Rogfast player does something that was a little confusing. They finale'd to get Cloud Fairies, and that looked like they were going for maybe some kind of instant speed combo or something, and then just passed and kind of let it happen. Turns out they were just trying to untap their Cradle to maybe hold up interaction for me because they thought I was going to win that turn, even though I said very clearly I wasn't going to win that turn, which I had Basalt here, but I did not have an outlet. The other 2 cards that I could still cast that were relevant in my hand were a Wandering Archaic, which is helpful, but didn't seem like it would matter if none of us had interaction for Rockdrass, and then the Wandering, which will give me 1 singular random draw. And remember, I promised the Sisay player, no matter what, I'm not winning this turn. So I resolve Void Winnower, Wandering Archaic, Wandering. I tap the Wandering, I draw a card. It's fucking Invasion of Ikoria. And I literally show it to him, and I say, this is when it hurts to be an honest person, like, because I'm not winning. I do not break deals that I make. But I did tell him, I was like, okay, this is still within the realm of what we said. I'm going to cast it. I'm not getting Thrasios. I got Seaborn Mace, which is still like puts me in a winning position for sure, but did not win the game that turn, which is what I said I would not do. And I mean, you know, it's like a very awkward position, right? Because you look at that and you're like, okay, the Sisay player let you essentially go and win, but we're also staring down a player who's tried to resolve a Dosin for 3 turns in a row and also has a win in hand. And so if your options are lose deterministically to the Dosin player or lose potentially to the Kinnan player, your EV is still higher on the non-deterministic person who's promising you're not going to win that turn cycle. So I still think it's correct for me to...
Did he try to make a deal with the Rockdrass player?
He did not, which I think is the correct thing to do in that instance. Yeah, you would never let me have that Void Winnower and Basalt.
I would let you have a Void Winnower without Basalt.
That was my only way to get to it. I couldn't hardcast it. Yeah. But so that was the situation where, like, I still, looking back on it, like, I think in the current situation, without making a deal with the Rockfast player, it makes sense. And so I untap because I had Seaboon at that point.
Better deal. I think you should say no other spells other than Void Winnower.
Yeah, which would I have agreed? I probably would have showed him the Wandering and I said I'm casting this. Like, but yeah.
Then you don't get a Seaborn.
Yeah, then I don't get a Seaborn. Right. There are. It's one of those hindsight things as well. Yeah. So that was another thing. So so obviously then what ends up happening, I untap here. My like second spin, because I have Basalt at that point, just is Thrasios, which just gives me the win there. So I was able to win the game. The Rogfast player seemed pretty upset after the game about what happened, which I can understand from his position, where he never offered to like make some kind of deal with the Sisay player. Like, he didn't bring that up either, which I think would have been the correct thing for him to do. And I think the Sisay player could have also paused at the table to be like, hey, like, we don't want things getting too out of hand here with Kinnan. Like, that conversation should have happened. It did not happen. He seemed a little upset with the overall situation here about like the guy letting me have the Tezzeret and stuff, though he couldn't have stopped it anyway. His only piece of interaction was actually Flusterstorm. and in a Psych Rift, which didn't work after the Void Winner. So he told me, in his brain he was hoping to overload a Psych Rift with the Void Winner on the stack because he thought that would put himself in a really good position or something like that, because he didn't really care about the Void Winner at all. And then he just didn't do it and then forgot, I guess. I'm not sure exactly. He seemed a little bit confused. Turned out after the game, he was super new to CDH from the conversations with the Rockstars player, where the Rockstars player was partially upset because he thought that he let me do everything partially because of who I was. And that was genuinely what the Rockstars player was upset about. And then he had a conversation with the guy where he found out that the player was relatively new and had no fucking idea who I was. And so once he found out that information, all the salt went away and he was totally happy and we had a really good conversation about it. But so I was able to get the win there, which brought me to the final table. And the final table was myself on the play on first seed overall, the TNT player, Jacob, who was second seed overall, the Omnixilis player, who was third seed overall, like the seeds 1, 2, 3 all won our top 16 games. And then in fourth seed was the boy at the Airbnb, the world, Jacob, on TK, known Crux Sakashima player. And that game, dude, sometimes my deck just says, here you go. And it's really cool when it just says, here you go. My first 7 was 1 land, but it was just a monstrous amount of mana and a Mirage Mirror. And that's all it was. 0 interaction, 0 anything else. But I'm on the play. I was like, I'm not mulliganing this on the play on first 7. Like, this is just an insane amount of mana. And so it was just mana and a Mirage Mirror, which Mirage Mirror, I do not care about in that hand. It just happens to be in the hand. My turn 1 top deck, it can be good. It can do some cool things. My turn 1 top deck was Basalt Monolith, which is so sick. And so I go for the win turn 2. And unfortunately, the world, Jacob in fourth seat, just has the Mindbreak Trap for it. From this position of the game now, when I'm going into my turn 3, TNT just kind of mulled low in this game and didn't have anything going on. They were able to just get 2 Thrasios that could maybe hold up an activation. That's all they had. Obnixilis could potentially do something with Wishclaw, but didn't have much yet, was still in that developmental phase. Jacob got screwed in fourth seed. He kept land Esper and did not draw another land for 3 turns.
And Esper keep.
Dude. Dude, he didn't draw a single land for a while. So he just had nothing going on at that point. So I'm going into my third turn where I'm facing out board that just can't really do anything. I activate Kinnan, just hit a birds and nothing else. But then going in, and I play the Mirage Mirror. And then going into my fourth turn, again, everyone's in that same position of they can't do anything. And I have 15 mana on board. It's a ridiculous amount of mana. And so I just say, okay, fuck it. I'm going to go for it. And I activate Mirage Mirror, turn it into a Wishclaw Talisman, activate the Wishclaw Talisman, get Hullbreaker Horror, cast Hullbreaker Horror. No one has shit for it. I have the rocks that work with it. I win the game. Pause. What about that situation's illegal? To be clear, from this position, everyone conceded. We shook hands, said great game. We divvied out prizing. We took our pictures. Yeah, the game had ended. We took our pictures. The judges went home. 30 minutes later, someone mentions to me, hey, you could have activated that Wishclaw. You turned it into a copy of Wishclaw. It only enters with the counters. You cannot Mirage Mirror Wishclaw, which immediately I hit this flash before my eyes thing where I've 100% done that in a tournament before and not realized it. So for anyone who's ever thinking about that, Mirage Mirror doesn't work. Shifting Woodlands doesn't work with it. Anything that just turns it into a copy of a Wishclaw that is not entering as a copy of a Wishclaw doesn't work. So it has to already be on the battlefield to turn into it. Those things don't work, but stuff like Clever Impersonator, Copy Artifact, those effects do work with Wishclaw Talisman. So good learning moment.
Though we had to give all the prize money back.
No. The one thing that gives me a little bit of solace about this game is the position I was in with just so much mana and no one else having anything going on. The odds that I win that game are still so unbelievably high that I feel okay about it. It still sucks that it has that little bit of an asterisk. It was a genuine mistake. Yeah, but also, again, we're at a table with 4 players where I'm not doing that on purpose. I would never do that on purpose. None of us noticed it. There were 2 judges sitting at that table. Neither of them noticed it. Just the way it went. But overall, super fun. And it was finally, that was for anyone who doesn't know, I've been playing Kinnan a long time. That was my first CDH deck. I did the math on it. This tournament to my first tournament was 518 days. I have been to, I think, 11 finals at majors with Kinnan before this, and this was my first ever big win, which felt like getting the final of Vinny Stone a little bit. No, generally, it was
all the rumors are true.
Fucking brother, I'm Thanos. No, I'm trying to cleanse the fucking meta of Rog size. That's it. All right, but it was the last goal I had. That was a real specific goal that I had not achieved, and it felt really, really cool to find. So I definitely a lot of proudness there, and it felt really cool to do. I did get 3 duels. Those are nice. They're a good thing. But yeah, post tournament thoughts.
Yeah.
How do you feel about the meta, right?
So I think these bands wasn't the casual and right, mostly because not necessarily because And I think that super cool. I think Dockside. I mean, it makes sense at the same time. So I think the meta's fun. I think it's way slow. But I was playing against right after I play some more Shurikai because fun, and it works. It's been winning.
I swear it's good, guys. I've seen it be good.
I killed him with it, but yeah.
Dude, you mirror made my fish so fast. I was like, fuck.
So just hop the fish. But yeah, no, I think that right now, TNK is still in a really good spot. Rockside is still really good. I think right now, before the meta, and a lot of mid-range as the meta.
Rockside is better when there's more Rocksides, 100%.
So so as people, I mean, they care about Doc. He's that half, but right now, I think it's embraced it. Mid-range soup. I don't think.
You still need to have a game.
I didn't see any of the rule laws. That's anecdotal.
It does. I mean, it does matter, and that's something Stacks is a very high floor of skill to play correctly. I would say, like, Stacks is a difficult. Which I
think part of that, though, I think a lot of times people are able.
Yeah. There's like Winota does it well, right? I think to play a deck that wants the rule of law effects, it has to be something that can quickly turn the corner from those effects.
That's exactly
like Tayam, Winota, something that can say, I'm winning.
Win con Stacks.
Yeah. Not going to happen. Elevere might actually still work as win con the Stacks just because Elevere is so much damage. It's so much damage. Yeah, it's so much damage.
It's like you can't just getting a hard blow unless it's.
But I mean, with the meta, it's pros and cons, right? Like the cons come with a lack of explosive swinginess, which is again what some people loved about the format. It's a pro and a con, right? Like it depends on your opinion of how you enjoy playing the game with that regard. And a lot of people loved it, and that's why they played. So that being gone is a negative. A loss of certain decks being dead without Dockside, that is a negative. But I do think weirdly, where people were like, oh, the format's going to become more homogenized was the initial prediction. I feel like I heard from a lot of people.
I thought so. I did think so at first because I thought ROG is like so strong.
If everyone was playing the best thing, yes.
But then I think like the reaction from everyone was try new things. That's what I'm doing.
Yeah.
And it's super.
Everything has been more diverse from what I've seen. And even I was looking through other tournaments, top 16s recently, and we went from TNK and Rogsai on average being 8 out of every top 16 for like the month and a half before the bans to now TNK and Rogsai are usually 3 or 4 of the top 16. Like top 16s are significantly more diverse right now. And I think that is a huge positive.
I think any ban would really evaluate. I mean, I think the format's fun.
Yeah, no, I enjoy it right now. I do think it's really cool. And yeah, everyone being slowed down makes it okay that your deck got slower because everyone is slow. Like
that's real.
Yeah. But overall, really wonderful tournament. Really fun to get back into CDH. I'm enjoying re-entering the format for sure. Looking forward to playing some more game. And yeah, that's about it here for I think today. Yeah. Thank you so much for listening to the Colors of Crutch podcast. Or maybe, I don't know, Mountain Man Magic for today. I don't even yeah, today was Mountain Man Magic. We're having a good time here. We could add it. It's beautiful to our left right now. Is really, really pretty. But yeah, we had Freedom Waffles, I guess, today. One of the best there is. Awesome guy in the format, good friend of mine, and thank you guys so much for listening. Really, yeah. See you guys next time.
Look,
bang. Turn the camera. Look at it.